Okay, number 3. So what do we have? So, it's corner geometry. So just before we read this, just have a quick look. We have P, which is probably the center of the circle, Q, which is actually a tangent of the circle, meaning that there's going to be probably a straight line here which we need to work out. And this will tell us that the gradient here is going to be perpendicular. So we have to find the gradient of this line. Well, this line will be the perpendicular gradient, so we need to flip it. Anyway, let's have a go. So the circle C has a center P, which is 7, 8, so keep that in mind, and pass through the point Q over here, which is 10, 13, as shown in figure 2. Now, find the length PQ. Okay guys, this is straightforward. This is just the distance formula. So the distance here, in other words, actually the distance is also the radius. So the radius, we just use Pythagoras. So we just find the difference between the x and square them plus the difference of the y's. So the difference between the x is 10 minus 7, which is 3, so it's 3 squared, plus the difference between the y's, 13 minus 8 is 5, so it'll be 5 squared. And 3 squared plus 5 squared, and square rooting it will give us root 34, so root 34. That's the distance. We're done. Now, let's have a look. Next one, B. Hence, write down an equation for C. Well, the general equation for a circle is always x minus a squared, so let's write down. So x minus a squared plus y minus b squared equals r squared. The reason why it's like this is because this is the typical circle equation where a and b are the center of the circle, i.e. point P, and r is just the radius, which we already found. So given that we know the center circle, which is 7, 8, well, we just literally write down. So it'll be x minus 7, which is that point P, which is the center, and squared plus the y value, which is 8. So y minus 8 squared, and all of this must equal r squared. Since r is root 34, that means r squared is just 34 without the root. Yeah, not bad. Very easy. Now, next one. The line L is a tangent to C at the point Q. So again, everything we already know. So find an equation for L in this form. Okay, so just a long story short, I would always find the gradient first. So this is typical. Find the gradient of this line and then realize that this line is perpendicular. And we can always find the gradient when you have 2 points. So to find the gradient of the line PQ, so let's call it line PQ, the gradient would just be the change in y over the change in x. And yeah, change in y between P and Q, so let's have a look. It's going to be 13 take away 8, which is 5. And then change in x would be 10 take away 7, which is 3. So the gradient for the line PQ is 5 over 3. Now, given that the line L is perpendicular, this means we just have to flip this upside down and stick a negative sign. So for the line L, then the new gradient is going to be the perpendicular gradient of this one. So it'll be flip upside down, so you get 3/5, and change the sign, so it'll be negative. Now, let's write this what we know. So going to part C, we can firstly say that the general equation for a line is always y equals mx plus c, where m is the gradient, c is the y-intercept. M we just found, which is minus 3/5. Trust me guys, this is dead easy, yeah? Minus 3/5 x plus c. Now all we need to do is just pick any coordinate on this line that we know, and for example we know q is on this line, plug it in and find the value c. Then rewrite the equation with c and voila, done. So let's just say at the point PQ, so at PQ, the equation now becomes, so at Q we have coordinates 10, 13. So x is 10, y is 13. So the equation becomes 13 equals minus 3/5 times 10 plus c. Solving this one, 13 equals minus 3/5 times 10. So that gives you minus 6 plus c. Eventually you'll realize that the value c should now become, so adding 6, 13 plus 6 should be 19. Yeah, not bad. So since it's 19, now you just plug it back in, so you can have the new equation, which is going to become y equals minus 3/5 x plus 19. Voila. Now just to make sure we're done, let's have a look at the equation. So give your answer in the form ax plus by plus c, where each of them are integers. In other words, clear the fraction, yeah? So what I would do, I would multiply 5 across here. So let me just do it, change the color so I can see it clear. So change the color, so times this by 5, you're just going to get literally 5y equals minus 3x plus the 19 times 5, which is 95. And then just throw everything to the left-hand side. So it's going to be, let's see, throw everything to the left-hand side. So throw 3x across the 95, and you should get 3x plus 5y minus 5y minus 95 equals 0. And that's it. Case closed. If you guys got this, seriously, give yourself a pat on the back. Otherwise, let's move on.